Good evening. My name is Howard Edelman. I'm your host for Israel and the Jewish World. Plato wrote, "No thing more excellent nor more valuable than wine was ever granted mankind by God." Ecclesiastes states, "Wine was created from the beginning to make men joyful. Wine drunk with moderation is the joy of the soul and the heart." Psalm 104 declares, "Wine gladdens the heart of man." With that in mind, we're going to take you to a visit to the family-owned Flam winery in Israel in our show called, naturally, First Fruits. Since Dionysos was not only the Greek god of wine, but this cross-dressing god was also the god of homosexuality. Yossi will follow up on that latter connection. Finally, Barry Rubin will look into what happens with the first fruits of peace between Israel and Egypt. Stay with us for a very inebriating show. Gilad, you and your brother started this winery, 12 years ago. Why did you go into the wine business? You weren't trained as a winemaker.
Actually, all the story was that we were growing in a wine family. Since I was born in Rishon, near the big winery of Carmel Winery, and we were in this wine business all our life. And in the 19th, when Golan went to Italy to train and to study oenologist, and I was there I was in Europe also.
What were you doing in Europe?
Traveling, working.
After the army, you mean?
Yeah,
after the usual.
Yeah, the usual thing, traveling and working. And we loved wine all our life. And what we saw that when we traveled, we had a kind of motorcycle trip there in Tuscany. And what we saw that the super premium wineries in France, in Italy, are big names like Chateau Petrus in France, Ornellaia, Sassicaia in Italy. It's small wine estates. And in these days, in the 90s, there were no so much small estates in Israel. There were only the big wineries here in Israel, Carmel, Golanites, Binyamina, Barkan. And our vision was to make wine estates in Israel that will do only premium and super premium wines from our own vineyards, like the model works in Italy, in France, or in Napa Valley.
Yeah,
also
the Napa Valley has the same thing.
The same thing. And
also South Africa.
South Africa, when my father was trained there in
Stellenbosch.
Stellenbosch.
He was trained there.
He was also in UC Davis in California and in Stellenbosch. And there starts the dream to make a wine estate in Israel.
And where did you get your initial capital and money to start this? I mean, it means there's so many parts of the process. It's very expensive.
Yeah, actually what we have done, we have made two companies when we started. We have, because it was me and my brother, we were not poor, but regular people who have a regular budget and winery and vineyards needs a lot of wine or a lot of money. And first of all, we started very slowly, and we started in not in this nice winery inside. It's like a startup company. We started in like a garage, more a garage winery, and doing thousands of bottles. Second of all, because wine is something that you have to invest, and it's for the long term, like 4 or 5 years, and the aging, all the process is very long. I'm talking about 97, 98. We have established another company, which it's our company, Flam Brothers Geffen, and we import wines to Israel.
Oh, I see. So you're an importer. I see.
We import Italian wines and Australian wines, and that what was turnover of our first capital.
I see.
And actually, this import company was very successful. It's a great.
You still have it?
Yeah, of course. We still
Oh, so
have
it's a successful company.
Yeah,
I
it's
see.
a very good and successful company in Israel. We import from Australia, but it's now different, total different company. But in the first years, that company gave us until we released our first wines.
When was that year you released your first wine?
Our first vintage was in '98. But we released it in 2001.
I see.
So you need 3 years to work, and meanwhile you have vintage of 98, 99, 2000, 2001. Just when you see your first shekel in 2002, but you have already 4 vintages in the cellars. So that was our profile of making, and we had already the clients because they bought from us.
I see. So
our import wines, and that was the case.
But 8 years is not a long time to grow so fast. You've grown quite fast.
8 years, I think, it's not a long time, but we worked very hard.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
It's very hard working. It's still a family-owned company, and we want it to be like this, not an external investor or something like this. We want the philosophy and energy of the family to keep on and grow this brand of Flam.
But this must have been a bonus. It not only gave you your initial capital selling it, but you had already access to customers. You had a customer base. And it meant that when you get tough times, and I imagine there's been tough times in the winery business. I know when I was living in Australia, all the wineries, there was a surplus of wines. They were trying to sell it any way they could. So it helps you over the hard times, I think.
The second company,
the
import business.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, it's help us in the local market.
How much do you sell in the local market? What percentage?
80% of our sales are in the local market.
Mainly to what? Restaurants?
Mainly, our main market is restaurant, specific wine shops. We are not working with supermarket or big chains. Duty free, we are selling in Israel, but mainly our big business in Israel is restaurant because we are more professional company. A restaurant need the high premium boutique wines from Israel. They like to sell it. They like because in restaurant it's very, very important the quality of the product because you cannot sell something which is not good because the consumer is right there, and if you sell it bad wine or a bad glass of wine, it will bring it back to you. And restaurant, it's very tough to sell to restaurant, but if you succeed to sell to restaurants, it's a good sign that your wine are very good because in their wine list, they want only the best wine they can reach in the country.
And you've established that with the customers, and you sell, I guess, soon to the best restaurants too.
Yeah, we are working with most of the best restaurants in Israel, and also this business in Israel is growing up, and more restaurants are, for our good luck, that it's developed all the culinary session in Israel, and people are getting more professional, and wine lists are getting more professional. So and they are searching for the best thing they can reach. The chefs, the owner of the restaurants.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing now. You come to Israel, you can come on a food and wine tour and get the best in the world. But this is a family enterprise, not just you and your brother. Your mother's the boss?
Our mother.
I want to meet your mother, and your father got you started because he was in the wine business, right?
So we can go up and meet them.
Okay, let's do that.